Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we'll be going on a journey through time to explore how societies and systems have evolved, with a focus on money and power. Get ready for some surprising historical insights that might just change how you see the world around you.
Yeah, it's fascinating how understanding the past can really illuminate the present, especially when it comes to these forces that shape our lives.
Absolutely. We've got some really fascinating historical documents and research lined up. For instance, did you know that back in 18th and 19th century England, they used something called bills of exchange? Imagine a cross between cash and a savings account almost, like ancient Egyptians using grain as credit.
Yeah, it's a great example of early trade credit. These bills of exchange weren't just like IOUs, they actually circulated as a form of payment, essentially creating new money within the system. It
Uh,
really highlights the idea that money at its core is a system of trust and promises.
hmm, that's really interesting. So much of what we take for granted about money is built on these historical foundations. Now let's rewind even further back to the Neolithic Revolution. It might seem like a simple shift from hunting and gathering to agriculture, but it had huge implications for power dynamics.
Oh, absolutely. The Neolithic Revolution, which began roughly 7,000 to 8,000 BCE, led to the emergence of food surpluses, and this surplus allowed certain individuals to specialize in tasks beyond farming, leading to the rise of a social elite who controlled these extra resources and decision-making processes.
So with the first crops came the seeds of social stratification, where societies became layered with some groups wielding more power and wealth than others.
Precisely. This period marks a turning point in human history, as it laid the groundwork for the concentration of power and resources in the hands of a few. It's a pattern we see echoed throughout history.
Speaking of patterns, history seems full of empires that rise and fall. Think about the Han Dynasty in China or the Roman Empire. These vast empires faced immense challenges, from maintaining huge armies to managing complex bureaucracies.
Yeah, these empires often struggled to support their sprawling infrastructures. They faced constant internal and external pressures, with migrating nomadic groups often contributing to their eventual decline. Their stories offer valuable lessons about the challenges of maintaining power on such a grand scale.
It's almost like a cautionary tale for any system that becomes too large or rigid to adapt to change. Now let's shift our focus to the United States and its own unique evolution. The 19th century was a period of rapid expansion driven by the idea of manifest destiny. But this expansion often came at the expense of Native Americans.
The story of the U.S. is also a story of power struggles, particularly around the issue of slavery. The Compromise of 1820 attempted to balance power between slave and free states, but eventually unraveled with the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854. These political maneuvers around slavery had significant consequences, ultimately leading to the Civil War.
And during the Civil War, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 proved to be a pivotal moment. By declaring slaves in Confederate-held territory free, it energized anti-slavery forces and even influenced foreign powers to stay out of the conflict.
It's a reminder that even amidst intense conflict, strategic decisions and proclamations can significantly shift power dynamics and alter the course of history. But the struggle for power and equality didn't end with the Civil War. The Reconstruction era aimed to rebuild the South and grant rights to Black people, but it faced fierce resistance.
Despite some progress during Reconstruction, the reemergence of Southern Democrats led to the implementation of Jim Crow laws, which were designed to segregate and disenfranchise Black people. It's a stark reminder that progress isn't always linear and that power structures can be incredibly resilient.
It underscores the ongoing struggle for equality and the importance of remaining vigilant against attempts to roll back hard-won rights and freedoms. Now, considering these historical power struggles, it's important to consider the individual's place within these systems. Where do we fit in, and how much agency do we truly have? That's a question that has perplexed thinkers for centuries. The late John McAfee, a tech pioneer, had some thought-provoking ideas about this. He often spoke about the illusion of choice in modern political systems and the influence of what he called the deep state.
McAfee's views were definitely controversial. He argued that the focus on presidential elections distracts us from a larger, less visible power structures that truly shape our lives. He even suggested that people stop paying taxes as a way to challenge the system, not exactly a mainstream idea.
Yeah, while tax evasion isn't something we'd advocate for, McAfee's point raises some interesting questions. If we feel powerless within these systems, how do we effectively challenge the status quo and push for meaningful change?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming to think about going up against these massive entrenched systems. But history has shown us time and again that change is possible, even if it's often slow, messy, and requires sustained effort.
Absolutely. The very power structures we've been discussing are ultimately created and maintained by people. And if people created them, people can change them. It all starts with education and understanding.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
The more we understand how these systems work, where the levers of power lie, and how decisions are made, the better equipped we are to navigate them.
Precisely.
Mm.
And we also need to recognize our own agency. Even within these large systems, we have choices. We can choose how we participate, how we consume, how we vote, and how we engage with our communities.
So it's not just about understanding the grand historical forces, but also recognizing the power we have in our everyday lives.
Exactly. And never underestimate the power of collective action. Throughout history, social movements have driven significant change. When people come together and demand a different, future systems can shift.
Thinking about those movements like the fight for abolition or the struggle for civil rights reminds us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, hope and collective action can make a real difference. These were long, hard-fought battles, but they ultimately led to progress.
They remind us that change often starts with individuals who refuse to accept the status quo and who inspire others to join their cause. It's a testament to the power of human will and collective action. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about how we got from those early forms of credit to the complex financial systems we have today. It's a story that unfolds over centuries.
Right? The evolution of finance. As societies became more complex, so did their financial systems. Banks emerged. Governments took on a larger role in managing currencies, and then came the digital revolution, which completely transformed the landscape.
The internet changed everything. From online banking to cryptocurrencies, the world of finance has been turned upside down. This has created new opportunities and new challenges, democratizing access to financial tools in some ways, but also introducing new complexities and risks.
It's almost like we're constantly trying to catch up with the pace of technological change. And as we mentioned before, with those advancements come those crucial questions about privacy and data in the digital age.
It's crucial to remember that these issues are intricately linked to the themes of money and power we've been exploring. It's not just about bits and bytes, it's about who controls the flow of information, who profits from our data, and how these dynamics shape our lives.
So much of our lives now play out on digital platforms. Our communications, financial transactions, social interactions, it's all happening online. And with that comes the reality that our data is being collected, analyzed, and, as McAfee warned us, monetized.
It raises critical questions about the balance of power between individuals and these large tech companies that hold vast amounts of our data. It's not just governments we need to consider anymore, but also these powerful corporations that wield significant influence on the global stage.
Yeah, it is a little unsettling when you think about just how much power these tech giants have in our world. Their influence goes way beyond just economics. They shape our culture, our perceptions, even political discourse.
Absolutely. We live in a world where money, power, and technology are all converging in ways we've never seen before, creating opportunities and challenges we're only just starting to grasp. But like we've been talking about, understanding these dynamics is the first step towards navigating them in a way that benefits us.
We've talked a lot about the challenges. But amidst all of this, are there any reasons to be optimistic? Are there ways to kind of reclaim some of that power and agency we've been discussing?
I think so. I really do. As we've emphasized throughout this whole deep dive, awareness is key. But even beyond awareness, we need to make conscious choices, both as individuals and as a society.
Choices like being more mindful of the platforms we use, the data we share, the products we consume, essentially becoming more conscious consumers and citizens.
Exactly. Supporting businesses that align with our values, advocating for policies that protect our privacy, and engaging in open and honest conversations that challenge the status quo. All of these actions contribute to a more balanced distribution of power.
So it's not about disconnecting from the digital world entirely, but rather engaging with it in a more intentional and informed way. We have a voice, and our collective choices can make a difference.
That's the heart of it. We're not powerless in the face of these systems. Throughout history, from those early merchants using bills of exchange to activists championing social justice, people have challenged the norms and pushed for change.
It's inspiring to remember that systems of power, while they might seem huge and unchanging, are constantly evolving and are shaped by the actions of individuals. We're not simply passive passengers on this journey. We can actively shape the course of history.
That's what's so amazing about exploring history and these themes of money and power.
Yeah.
It's not just about studying dusty archives or forgotten empires. It's about understanding ourselves, our place in the world, and the potential we have to create a more just and equitable future.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. from ancient forms of money to the modern digital landscape, from the rise and fall of empires to the enduring power of social movements. It's been quite a journey.
But the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring these themes, keep asking questions, and keep challenging the assumptions about how money and power operate in our world. The more we understand these dynamics, the better equipped we are to navigate them and advocate for positive change.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, understanding the past can empower us to shape the present and build a better future.